Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today with me I have a special guest, Mr. Spragels, the content cowboy. Yeehaw! How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me, Krashy. How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. This is our second recording, but for you guys at home watching, we have the link in the description, probably in a pinned comment as well. Go watch the other half. We're talking about the meta and how we think Blastoise is going to impact the game. Really, really fun discussion. And on this one, we're going to be doing like our wish list, not necessarily like a list per se, but things that we want to see, for the game in general, about anything. So what are you thinking, Spragels? How are you feeling about the game and what you want to see?
First off, I feel really fortunate to be covering something I really enjoy. I think that does need to be said because sometimes we can probably be critical about the game at times, but I really like it. And because of that, I do get excited thinking about what could come inside Pokemon Unite. One thing that a lot of people have mentioned, and I think they need to do something with this, is some sort of merit-based or a playtime-based version of shiny skins for your Pokemon. So if I main Cramorant all the time, I want to be able to unlock some sort of shiny Cramorant skin. I think that would be so sick.
Yeah, I think, the idea of like a mastery system is so cool. And there's a few ways they could do it, because you could keep it simple and like, oh, play 500 games or win 500 games. Or you could even make it a little bit more complex where it's like, get a double kill. Like it's like a list of achievements. And when you hit all those achievements, boom, you unlock it. Would be really cool. Now, I tend to think about like the business side of something like that, and like giving away shiny skins, that's tough. So what they got to do, and this makes sense from the business perspective, even as a player, is they have to make what the amount of time it requires to get it worth the investment of giving a free skin, right? So make us work for it, make me work for it. I'll put in that work to get that big reward, but I would definitely love to see something like that. And yeah, to kind of touch on your first point, like, yeah, I'm pretty critical of the game, but it's because I love it. And I think it's awesome to talk about things that I'd like to see change or brought into the game. And speaking of things being brought into the game, Blastoise is coming out in like a week. Just about a week, which is crazy because I thought he was going to come out with the mobile release on the 22nd. So really, really awesome. I think that they're very strong on their release schedule because they know the game is new, which means they want to keep interest with players, and they also want to increase the roster without dumping the roster on us from day one. One thing I've talked about a little bit in the past is that I used to know a MOBA developer, and he told me like when he was working at his company for their game that they had like 15 to 20 characters in the pipeline at a time. They'd be play testing them like all day, and I'm like, wow. So thinking about what they're doing internally, gets me excited.
Oh, absolutely, especially with how huge this roster is. I mean, there are so many cool things they can do, and I actually like when we see some of the Pokemon that are coming down the pipeline that we know about, and maybe some of the leaks that we've seen. I actually like that it feels like they're not just going, hey, whatever a legendary Pokemon was, those are all the Pokemon we see. We've actually got some cool choices coming down the pipeline as well. But I can't imagine what it must be like to have 20 different Pokemon being play tested that all do these wild things, man. And how you start to release them based on the game's meta. It would be a pretty fascinating thing. I do have a quick question for you, Krashy. If there was a shiny skin where you needed to put in a ton of time, who would you want to get? Like, who is your number one?
It's probably Charizard. Like, yeah. I mean, he's just like, people ask me, who's your favorite to play? Charizard. Who's your favorite Pokemon? Charizard. It's like, I'm a Gen 1 boomer. Like, I really am not a big Pokemon guy myself. So, like, Gen 1 sticks out for me. I love Charmander as just like a starter. So adorable. And he's a dragon, man. Like, I don't know, like, they're dragons. Like, it's so cool to me. So, yeah, I would definitely go for that shiny for sure. And the cool thing is, like, if it does take a lot of time, like, that gives so much replay value to the game, because then I can just keep working on that, and that's really good. Speaking of replay value, I'll definitely talk about something on my kind of like hypothetical wish list, which is changes to the ranked mode. I gotta be honest, I definitely am not a huge fan of how the ranked mode works. I think there's a couple of things that need some changes. For me personally, I would love to see some way that they split solo queue and like team queue, and that could be done in a couple ways. It could be done at a certain rank tier where it's like, okay, cool, we had y'all playing with your friends, but it's like the big leagues now you're solo duo. Or they could have it to where like they do full split queues. Now that is interesting because it really pulls the player base apart quite a bit, and I don't know if that's the best idea, but I do think that like having a leaderboard that's like fully dominated by teams, it kind of almost makes like the solo experience a little less. Like I feel like I can't really chase after them in rank points and on the leaderboard that well anyways, so it kind of makes it like not as fun to me. But I don't think it's that bad. I would just like to see some light changes. I even think like maybe like things like tightening the matchmaking a little bit, where you don't have like 3 or 4 different ranks playing all in a single game. Maybe like performance points changes, because I think performance points are pretty forgiving. But just like light changes to like increase the like competitive nature of each game. I want every match to feel really, really competitive, and sometimes it just feels like the skill range is all over the place.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's this weird thing that happens in Master Rank where I feel like at least 1 out of 5 matches, I'm matched with people who have literally no idea what's happening. So I'm playing with people who are really far behind where everyone else is. Then probably another 1 out of those 5, I am matched with clearly an entire 5-person team who is communicating. They all have like TTV in their name, and they're dominating me on some stream somewhere. So I think that's really tough when I spend most of my time solo queuing in Masters. And then the other few matches there I think are pretty decent, but they really do seem to have a problem with pairing people of similar skill levels. As I often say, I'm never going to be one of the best players in this game, but I'm pretty dang solid. So as a really solid player, I would love to be more often paired with pretty solid players. So even if I'm solo and we're going up against a 5-man, we could probably do pretty well, as long as someone is not just completely clueless inside of our game.
No, I agree. I think for me, the way I view it is like the game itself, like the literal game, is a team game, and that makes total sense to me. But I would dare say that the majority of people engaging with this game are not playing in 5-mans. So it's like you have to kind of trade, like, should we have like really high level 5-mans running around in ranked, which I'm fine with if it's in their own way, like in their own space off to the side, or should we make sure that the game has a bit more opportunity and fun for the majority, which I would say is like anywhere between like 1 and 3 players per lobby. So that's kind of why I want to see that change per se. Another thing that I would like to see is potential changes to, let me see how to say it, like and this is inevitable, I think, unless they decide not to do it, but potential changes to the actual mode itself, where, and we kind of talked about this on the other side when we were talking about meta, where it's like blind pick versus draft pick in a ban phase. Granted, I do want to automatically jump in front of it, because this is the first thing that happens and gets said about whenever I bring this up. It's like, we don't have the roster for it. I completely agree, we don't have the roster, but I think it'll be healthy for the meta. It'll be super healthy for the game when we do get into like this snake drafting ban potential kind of phase, and that's really really going to be cool for the game if and when we get that.
I totally agree. And even though we don't have the roster for it, I kind of still would like to see a reality where you're in a match and at least someone goes, well, we're banning Snorlax and we're banning Greninja, so let's just see what happens to the meta if we even take out some of the most popular people. Or like, yeah, no Lucario. What happens with no Lucario? I would love to see that a little bit. I know that's something that could happen more in the tournament space, even if the game doesn't afford it. You know, they could do something with that, you know, sort of pre-match, but that would be something really cool. Something I would love to see, Krashy. And this is down the line, I know, but I come from Smite, is the MOBA that I played probably the most. I've played a lot of MOBAs, but I love Smite, and Smite does an amazing job of bringing in characters who really play completely different from other characters. There are gods in Smite. Those are the sort of the Pokemon equivalent. The gods in Smite, some of them behave in a way that no others behave, and Pokemon has such an amazing opportunity to do that. I really want to see them take advantage of some of the weirder Pokemon and see how they work in a game like this.
Oh, completely. Unique kit design is king when it comes to adding content. I always say this about live service games, which this game is a live service game. They live and die by the content that comes into the game. And for example, if you're not familiar with this character from Heroes of the Storm, there's a character called Abathur. I love talking about Abathur because he's a character that you don't play in the lanes. You sit behind the walls and you attach to your teammates, and it's so unique that it's like, oh man, like who came up with that idea? It's so cool. So I would love a character. I can't, again, I don't have extensive Pokemon knowledge, but I would love a character that controls things from behind the scenes, or someone that, like a support character that you literally attach to your teammate and kind of ride their hip and then do things to like augment their abilities. The Eeveelution discussion could probably be brought up 1,000 times. I would like, my idea for Eeveelution, again, I don't have the most extensive knowledge, would be that you have Eevee base abilities, you pick your abilities, whatever, and then when it comes to the Unite move, it gives you like 4 different options, and depending on which one you pick, it gives you that Unite move, but also changes your evolution. And then when it changes your evolution, say you go into the Jolteon Unite move, it augments your base abilities to have some kind of a lightning effect on top of it. Like, I have like, so unique character design, it definitely needs to come to the game. Super excited about it. And speaking of characters or just adding Pokemon in general, I think that I'm loving the current release schedule. They definitely have like their foot on the gas with it, and I do think that that'll slow down. But for the foreseeable future, I'm loving this like 3 to 4 week release schedule that we have. So I definitely hope that that continues. That's pretty high up on my wish list for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're going to try to continue that as best they can, because I mean, from a business standpoint, they do need to release people just outside of the amount of coins you can collect, so that you're always want to, you know, pay a little bit here and there to grab some new Pokemon. So I really hope they keep their foot on the gas too. And it just keeps the meta entertaining. I know at some point this always happens in games like this, where something gets released, it's just absolutely broken, and the game is kind of unplayable for 2 weeks until they fix it, which will happen at some point when they release a new Pokemon. But I would rather see more Pokemon come out, the meta change more often, than sort of be more conservative with it and maybe release one a month or so. I'd rather see like one every couple of weeks.
Now, I am a person that loves ranked modes, so something on my wish list is I love that they're going to give us tickets for finishing the season. Like, we're going to get 20,000 tickets for being masters. I would like a little bit more of a reward. I know if you've seen like the trainer cards, you know how you have your little stickers and stuff. Give me that season 1 Masters badge. You know, give me something that commemorates my time and when I was playing the game and what I achieved. I would really love to see something, or a border, a season 1 Masters border that never comes back. You know what I mean? Like that exclusivity, that prestige that comes with it. I would love to see something like that as a potential reward. I think that we probably won't unless they really surprise us with it. But even if it's going forward, like the end of season 2, I would love to have that. Or like a title that goes on your card where it literally says like season 1 master, and if you were in the top 100, it could even say like season 1 master, like number, you know, 10. I think that level of prestige that you could give to players that work really hard for it, 1, that's super cool, and 2, when you give out rewards like that, it makes everybody play the game much more seriously, which is so good for gameplay.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, obviously they do that in a ton of different games like this. I was playing a game called Auto Chess a ton. Oh, yeah. And every season you would have where you ended that season and people could see it. And I think that's really important. They absolutely should do that. And actually, I wouldn't be shocked if they do, because I know season 1 is not ending soon, but part 1 of season 1 is ending with the mobile release. I think it's like day and date with mobile release, like the first half is ending. So I wonder if by the time mobile comes out, they might have fleshed out more of that, so we can see like, oh, also you get this if you've achieved master rank. I hope so too. That's a great idea.
Yeah, for sure. Another quick thing before we wrap things up here, I've been thinking about this. So they come out with 20k tickets for the end of the season, right? That's the perfect time for us to infuse our items with upgrades, do whatever we want with those tickets. I think that if they were ever going to add potentially like new items, the end of season or the end of that wrap up would be the perfect time for it, because it's like, hey, you know, season 1 ended, we're about to hop into season 2, check out this new held item, and they drop it on us, and it's like, oh dang, I have all these tickets,
Yeah.
What do I do? Do I push my items? This item looks really good. You know, this is a really heavy cooldown reduction item, like has like 25% cooldown reduction when you hit your ability or something. It's like, I don't know, man, that could be really good. I think I'm going to have to push that to 20, you know? So it could be really, really a great way to introduce new items too.
That's such a cool idea. I mean, obviously, new held items could come in. I really hope they give players some option of respecking at some point, because
like a
some
reset
people
token
really got screwed by like putting all their stuff into their leftovers and Rocky Helmet. So I hope they do something like that. And yeah, new held items. Oh, Krashy, you're a marketing genius, because they're probably going to do that, aren't they?
I mean, it makes the most sense. I mean, so you have a couple of strategies you could do where you cycle items in and out each season. That could work. As far as a wish list goes, I definitely do hope that we see some item balance to a certain degree. I think for the majority of the case, especially since, you know, items are an investment for players, more often than not, items should be seeing buffs and not nerfs, except for maybe in Buddy Barrier's case. I definitely think that one could come down, and reasonably so. But yeah, like as far as like someone getting Shell Bell or leftovers, like some of the items that are just kind of left out in the meta, bump those up a little bit. That could definitely come with the potential wish list. So friends, thank y'all for joining us. It's been Krashy and Spragels. Go check out that other video over on Spragels' channel. This is so fun. Spragels, I think we were kind of talking about a little bit. This may be a series. This might be something we have to do.
We were talking about it beforehand, but now that I've done it, Krashy, absolutely not. We'll never speak again.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute.
No, of course, Matt. I would love to. Thank you so much for doing this with me, dude.
Well, as I always tell the viewers, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them, and we'll see you on the next video.